Gracious God, we give you thanks for this time together tonight. We give you thanks that as we come together, though we may not all agree, we come together here in this place, marked by unity and marked by your Son, Jesus Christ. Be with us tonight. Send your Holy Spirit to be present in these conversations and help us all to move forward faithfully. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So, Steve, Betty, I'm not sure who
You can open up and open up you can open up our plan, what we're presenting to the city.
Okay. Fine, I'm going to stand up here. So, there'll get handouts. We had some handouts. The plan itself, I'm going to start there.
Could you introduce yourself and your role in this?
I'm sorry?
Could you introduce yourself and your role in this?
My name's Eddie Verdon. I'm a land use attorney in Virginia Beach, born and raised in Lynnhaven Colony, and I've been doing this for going on 42 years. With Sykes, Verdon, and Ern Levy, I'm representing the church up until we get to this point, and now basically representing both and presenting the plan.
Thanks.
So, sorry. We've done this before. I thought everybody knew who it was. I apologize. Okay, so, and again, I don't know, did y'all do a handout of these?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, perfect. So, Great Neck Road, I want to say Wildwood, but no, it's Millwood, there we go. I was going to say Wildwood for some reason. Wildwood coming in here, the church over here. This is the just under 4 acres of excess property that the church has and needs for various reasons that have all been discussed before. Sell this property because it isn't necessary for the church, and the church still has more than an acre more land than the minimum required by the city code, and there are more churches in Virginia Beach without 3 acres, which is what's required in our zoning ordinance since the 1960s that have less than 3 acres. So that's the background that I think most everyone is familiar with, not everyone. So what's proposed, this all is zone R10, and from the church's perspective, they should be able to sell it and it should be able to develop that R10. That application to quote unquote modify the conditional use permit is still pending, but in hopes of finding a compromise that will make the majority of people happy and to protect in perpetuity the pond. We are seeking, the Charge is seeking, church obviously has to join the application as the owner of the property, to change the zoning definition from straight or unconditional R10 on this front piece to conditional R10 for the sole purpose of guaranteeing exactly how it will develop. It's proffered and it must develop with the 5 houses that are situated as shown on here, substantially as shown on here, with the access being the same access that exists off of Millwood to the building that is on the remainder of the property. And this is roughly 1.35, I think, something like that, acres that's under a proffer agreement if it's approved, and we can talk in a minute about that. The balance of the property, including the pond, is the subject of a conditional rezoning, also from the unconditional R10 to conditional O1 for the purpose and profit of retaining and maintaining the property essentially as it exists today. It is, and I'll read the proffers and go through the proffers in a couple minutes. And we can talk about the specifics of the landscaping and the fencing and everything else on this. There will be a landscape buffer required to be planted along the boundaries of the homes to the north. There is already landscaping along the west side, which, except for this first house there'll be landscaping there, and then this is probably that the city, has, and a foundation or something like that, but that's already landscaped. So, nothing changes with regard to the pond, the lake, the regional BMP that takes 2/3, almost 70% of its water, that public water off of Great Neck Road and up and down Great Neck Road. Less than 1/3 comes off of the adjacent office building over here, to the south of the church and the church. And pump station is up there, no change there. So, the access will be widened. There will be, there's proposed to be a monument-style sign for the, office, that will hopefully go on that property. There's no proposal to change anything there, and again, we'll talk about that. So the intent is to keep things as close to, what they have been as it relates to the parcel, the property that abuts the, handful, or less than a handful of houses that are, to the north and one to the, west of the property that we're talking about. And, we can get into more detail if you have questions to talk about that. Let me go over the proffers, but I think that's probably one of the more important things to talk about. So, with regard to the parcel that's proposed to go from R10 residential to conditional O1, it's 2.538 acres of property, and the proffers specifically mandate that when the property is, and this property will be subdivided in this manner, this red line down here to the boundary with the church that already exists, and the right-of-way line out here on Great Neck Road, none of that's changing, but this will divide the property into the R10, conditional R10 piece, and the other boundaries all remain the same, except for this between the two. But when that happens, the monument style sign, which cannot have any lighting other than from ground level up at the sign, it can't have any internal lighting whatsoever, and the landscape buffers that I've already described in general terms, as well as the existing parking lot and building shall remain substantially as exists and as depicted and shown on this plan. And the sign, we proffered the sign as well. I don't know if that made the exhibit or not. Did not. Okay, it's a low level sign. I don't think it's more than 3.5 feet in height, and it's not sure. It's more like a identification sign for a neighborhood than it is a commercial sign. But and I'm sorry that we don't have that. The next proffer, the development of the property shall be restricted to the maintenance, renovation, and refurbishment of the existing 3,522 square foot A-frame office building to include up to 500 additional square feet of floor area, which will not substantially modify the exterior architectural features and appearance of the existing building. Next one, the only types of uses which shall be permitted in the building are as follows: business offices of advertising, real estate, or insurance companies. Number 2, medical, optical, and dental offices and clinics, legal, engineering, architectural, and similar professional offices, accounting, auditing, and bookkeeping services offices. Number 3, offices of miscellaneous business services such as consumer credit reporting agencies, mailing list and stenographic services, businesses and management consulting services. Number 4, offices of nonprofit organizations such as professional organizations, civic, social, and fraternal associations, political organizations, and religious organizations. And then the next one, religious uses. Those are the limited scope of business, or of what can go in this building, and these are uses that are defined in our city zoning ordinance. Okay, So those, and if you have questions, they wanna ask questions about that, certainly try to answer any of them. Next, the property, the first part shall record a declaration of easement creating an ingress, egress, and shared maintenance agreement for the benefit of the residential parcel over this front portion of the access, which will be shared. There'll be an easement for the benefit of these 5 houses over that coming here. The owners of those houses, along with the owner of this property, will share in the maintenance of that section of the roadway. These 5 folks, there'll be a homeowner association comprised of these 5 lots, and they'll be charged with maintaining this road here. That's the road aspect of it. Okay. And that's pretty much, that's it for the proffers that are applicable to this parcel.
Can I ask a question?
If you want to ask a question about that before I go to the other one, I'll be happy.
On those 5 houses,
Yeah, that's next.
well.
Go ahead.
Sorry if I'm jumping.
No, it's okay, it's okay.
Considering the rain that we've just had, where does the water from those properties go?
The stormwater will go same place that all the water off the Great Neck Road, all the way up past the Spring Branch Church in your neighborhood, properties at front on Great Neck Road, and the properties all the way down to the stoplight on both sides of the road go. They go in.
Lake Conrad 2?
I'm sorry?
That would all run into Lake Conrad 2.
It's all going into here, right now.
I know there's questions about Lake Pond, but I believe the city refers to the name of it as Lake Conrad 2, correct?
I don't know how the city refers to it. I've heard it called all kinds of things.
Oh, I was just referring, then yeah, I'm just playing with the official name of
The
it.
body of water that's right.
Whatever you wanna call it.
Yeah.
The body of water that's right here.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right. The big old pipe that comes in here and dumps all this water in here, that's what I was saying earlier. 70% of the water that comes in here today is not water that comes from either the church's property or the next property down to the south. It is all public water that has gone into the public drain system for this road from properties to the north on each side and the south on each side of Great Neck Road. It is already for all intents and purposes, it is a public best management practice holder of water. And then it goes from here through the weir system into the next body of water that the city owns and maintains.
And so does that mean that these new properties would increase the capacity put on the current lake?
They will drain just as the property today is draining into it. There will be more water associated with this than comes off the property as grass today. That's correct, but it's a small fraction of the water that's going in there today. It won't overload the pond by any stretch of the imagination. The cities, they have to study all this, and that will all take place during the site plan review. And if they wanted to put, some rain gardens and things like that, then that can be something that can be done. But it's not. The city does not have any belief whatsoever that this drainage system can't handle these 5 houses by any stretch. So you want to move on to the residential part of it? Or do you have any more questions about let's talk about the residential part. Say, this plan is proffered, so this is how it's to be developed. And the fencing is set back, Josh, is it 15 feet? Is it 10 and 5?
I believe it's 15, yeah.
Yeah,
5.
5 feet
For the
because there's utility lines.
Correct.
And then 10 feet,
For
so a
landscape.
total of 15 feet that it's set back from the right-of-way line. The right-of-way line is slightly west along Great Neck Road, west of where the sidewalk is. So in that 15 feet, there'll be grass, followed by 10 feet of a evergreen, solid landscape buffer that will grow up and eventually will cover the fence. The fences are 6 foot solid, they're brown, I believe, and they're vinyl fences. Right, am I correct about the vinyl? Or is it wood?
It's gonna be wood.
It's
Call
wood,
it wood.
okay, it's wood fence. And that comes down to the church's property here. This buffer is just landscaping between the church's property and the houses.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Whose responsibility is it to maintain the fence?
The homeowners of each of the
Each of the
properties.
lots.
But it would be put in by the developer, so it's uniform, so it's not having people having different types of fences. But, yeah, they will be responsible for maintaining it. And the same is true for the landscape buffer as well. And there'd be a mandatory that's one of the proffers, gotcha, there'd be a mandatory membership homeowners association comprised of these 5 homeowners who will be, responsible and, have the ability to collect from each one, to do whatever may be necessary over time, to maintain, because they don't have to plant it, it'll be done by the developers. It'll be planted all by, and they'll maintain it, the landscaping and and the fence itself. And they'll also, what maintenance is involved with this section of road, and then they'll share this with the owner of the building on the second parcel. The next now, before I leave this, there is a subdivision variance application for this lot. It will not obviously use Great Neck Road. There is no access, there's 1 foot, no egress easement along these roads. This will be the only access. So this lot requires a subdivision variance because it doesn't have 80 feet of road frontage. Did Dominion, I'm gonna jump around for a second, I apologize, but I'll forget about it. Did Dominion get back to us? Yes? That's going
Yes,
away, right?
I'm working on the list.
Okay. The Dominion Power has a 30-foot wide easement for a line that comes down here and basically serves a church that was done, again, back in the 60s. They don't do that anymore. And so technically, until they've indicated that they'll reduce and they're gonna reduce the size of it, this is totally unnecessary. But we did file a variance to the lot width requirement of this parcel solely because an easement over 20 feet in width for power it takes it away from it's like it's not land. So even though it meets all the requirements, because that easement's 30 feet, it technically needs a variance, but Dominion, and it's been filed for and it's moving forward, but they've already agreed, the paperwork hadn't been put to record yet. They're reducing the width of that easement to either 15 or 20 feet. So that's down in the weeds, but that's just one other thing. All right, so back to the 5 homes. They are required to have 2-car garage built on a crawl space or a raised slab foundation, minimum 2,600 square feet of living area, and they must be as depicted on these. Are we missing one?
We're missing 2. I
We're
just bought
missing
3.
two. Okay.
I just bought the best 3. Sorry.
Okay, there are 5 renderings of houses of like quality, and no 2 houses using the same architectural of the 5 can be on adjacent lots, but they may all 5 be different entirely. And so these are 3 of them of the 5, and then this is a rendering of what, with the fence and the landscaping and the apron in the back, just showing the whole perspective of what will be there. All right, and the exterior building materials are cementous siding, hardy plank, brick or masonry stone, or a combination of those high quality materials, and there can be metal roof accents, and there can be vinyl shutters, but everything's either brick, masonry stone, or cementous siding, which most people refer to as hardy plank, even though that's a specific brand of that type of siding. it's proffered that they will make a financial compensation to the recreational open space requirement under section 4.5 of the subdivision ordinance to Parks and Recreation, and that, again, that'll be subject to a mandatory membership homeowners association by recorded declaration, which will be responsible for what we've already talked about, maintaining the fencing and the landscaping.
Excuse me, what was
now,
that?
I guess I said something wrong.
Excuse me, what
I'm just
was-
looking at this right now.
Yeah, what was
So
that?
that fence is 10 feet? It's a 10-foot fence, is that right? Oh, it's in the buffer, never mind, I'm misreading it, yeah, that's right, it is a 6-foot.
Wendy has a question.
Yeah, what was that, the donation to the Parks and Rec
For
for?
open space, when they have small subdivisions, very small subdivisions, they don't want anymore, haven't for the last 30 years. If you go back and look at some of the 25, 30, 35 years ago subdivisions, they had these little parks in the neighborhoods, and they don't have the money to maintain them. And so instead, you contribute to Parks and Recreation, and they use that money to maintain existing parks or help buy other open space to create additional parks.
So they disregard the need for that here to give it to someone else.
Well, a park,
Just seems funny.
a park for 5 lots, for 5 homes,
No, but the-
No,
would be
this whole
like
area.
your backyard.
This whole area is Great Neck Estates. So the Great Neck
I just think
Estates is
that's
a
fine.
wide area of multiple subdivisions, so we're just trying to understand, how it all relates together.
Okay, if.
We do not have a park
Okay. well,
for these areas, and I know that doesn't have anything to do with you, it's just like,
But the land that is here that works for that area is being paid to not use and give that money to another area. It's just what we're trying to understand.
I'm not sure I understood.
Okay.
I think you
just said.
understand perfectly,
Thank
Derek,
you.
you got it.
You just said that the donation goes to other parks,
correct.
to maintain other parks like near us.
You talk to Parks and Recreation.
I know, like you said, the money goes to other parks that maintain other parks, not any existing park.
No benefit to the community that's
Well,
existing.
if there's an existing park.
But why is there not, I guess that's the question.
Yeah.
You think,
Well, it is neither the church's obligation nor the Bouchard's obligation
why do they have to- why does the
to
donate the money?
create a park for other neighborhoods.
Right.
That's not their obligation.
Ryan, it's trading
It costs
one
money to
for
do
another,
that.
basically.
Do you know why you guys have to give money to help another park?
The subdivision regulations now require, when you're doing a new residential subdivision, that you either create a park that's based on a formula for the size of the neighborhood, which is based on these 5 lots. You know, or you pay the money to help them have enough money to buy enough property to make it a viable, maintainable park. But and some condominium associations, and all, they'll create a park that's, just for their residents to use. But to create for 5 lots, we're talking about a postage stamp, because it's not a big enough subdivision based on the formula for the size of the park. When you're doing 5 lots, it doesn't make sense.
when you
I mean,
pay that money,
let's
does
say,
that-
we could meet the requirement by putting a little park right here for these 5 houses. What good does that do anyway?
But there's already a park there in the office area.
There is no park here.
There is a park.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're not
Okay.
having that's why it's church's property, and the fact that the church has permitted, people to utilize it who live in the neighborhood, it doesn't make it a public park. It's not a public park. Plain and simple. Okay, so,
We did, have a conversation with the Open Space Committee to pitch to the city, for the city to purchase this property as a park, but the Open.
well, yeah, I mean, I think everyone, I appreciate you pointing out, again, that's not.
But they can't. What, do we know why they weren't able to? You don't, okay.
I'm
You don't know
sorry,
why. Okay.
I wouldn't begin
Thank you.
to try to get it, I don't think anybody can necessarily answer that other than the people that are on the open space committee, or some people in Parks and Recreation.
Well, I think as all of you know, the church first effort was to get the city to buy the property, make it a park.
You approach the city as a whole, not just one small part of the city.
Well, the city as a whole, I've told you before, y'all know more about the way the city works than I do. I talked to the people that were involved in different cities, and they were in the real estate end of the city. What's the guy's?
Give me a minute and come to me.
It'll come to me too. But anyway, we talked to them about when they were leaving Infant STEM building, if they would like to buy that property. And then we talked to the city about buying all of it, any portion of it. And the only answer we ever got was we had no interest. We have the money and we're not interested. So that's how we got to where we.
I think they also said, basically they said, we're not interested, find a developer. Is actually what they said.
So that, I mean, that's where we got where we are.
And to be clear, to be very, very clear, that is a very typical answer, because what developers do is when they come in and want to rezone a piece of property that's not zoned for agriculture, and they want to, add density to property, they'll come in and they'll put, smaller lots, smaller houses, and create a park. Okay, but this property's been zoned, and when you have that situation where it's a by right development, then that's where you get the little formula that does exactly what I'm talking about. But if somebody came along and I'm not, please don't take this as, this is what's proposed, and I'm confident this is what's gonna happen. But if somebody came and said, look, well, hell, we'll come in here and we'll come up with a nice development plan and we'll create a park down here, but we're gonna wanna put, 30 or 40 houses on this, or units on this, in a multifamily configuration, or townhouses, or something like that. So that, that's happened in the years I've been doing this, happens quite a bit, and so, and that's, in some neighborhoods, they're like, well, we're fine with that extra density, because we get a park, and we need a park, and we want a park. And we're not proposing that, but that's the kind of things that happen. That's the way things get done, that keeps your taxes low and all,
Minister John Ryan was better than mine, very shockingly, as y'all know him, working in the city. I think he's still there.
Yeah.
But that's who used to be in charge of they didn't rent it, but the A-frame, he was the contact with the city on the A-frame. And he was the one who told us they had no interest. Now, if we'd been smart enough to know everybody on the city council, who had money or what departments they were, we could have gone somewhere else. So we did talk to the people that had been there for 25 years or more, and they said they had no interest.
What is the name of the new development? What is the proposed name of the new development? Because this is Great Neck Estates. The church is in Great Neck Estates.
Yeah, we're open to the community. If we wanna have a name, provide one, we're open to that.
No, I was just, you're saying you're doing a development, but you're doing a development in an existing community. So I think a park does come into play for open space in an existing community. That's,
Only if are you adding these 5 homes to this existing
yes,
community?
it's considered.
That's what, I mean, if we're giving up the name, then it's part of this community, therefore it impacts this community.
Well, I'm not aware of Great Neck Estates having any type of mandatory membership, homeowners association, or anything of that sort.
I don't want one.
So, I know, I nor should you. I'm saying, but Great Neck Estates is Great Neck Estates, and this, we haven't named this Great Neck Estates. That's for we haven't put any name on it, and that's as you say, we can call it Wycliffe Estates. But it's 5 houses. It doesn't even have to have a name for that matter. But there will be a name attached to it from the homeowners association documents. But we're not talking about putting a sign out here. There's no.
In the office?
Yes, this is just for the office. There is no proposed sign for these 5 houses. you know, if there's an aversion to it being, you know, Great Neck Estates South or something, I don't really think, you know, no one's trying to be disrespectful.
No.
And no one's suggesting to try to call it this or that. I mean, it's the Great Neck Corridor, folks, you know, it doesn't matter if the 5 houses have a name associated with it or not, they're gonna get gobbled up and no.
I think we're belaboring the point, and that's the real question is what benefit is the community going to get from this new development that's coming in and taking some things away? So that's the real question.
Well,
I don't think it'd be any more than the church would get if somebody sold their house. I mean, the community benefit is gonna be a beautiful development, but it's the benefit of the church, and what we're trying to sell the
I
property
know.
for the benefit
I
of the
think,
church.
I think I was coming from our perspective, and, you know, we're trying to ask them questions because we're losing some things that were benefits to us.
What are those?
The protection from the water that land absorbs. And anyway, I'm not here to argue, I'm here to listen to you. We're belaboring a point here, I'm just helping you move on.
Oh, well, I appreciate you helping
Yeah.
me move on. All right, I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything. I'm happy to answer any
Yeah,
questions.
I'll just share quickly. I mean, I've spoken a lot to Ryan, and our heart is to partner with the community and do the best that we can do with what we have. The church came to us during COVID and asked us to buy the property. We didn't seek this property out. As you all know, we've been in this together, and it's been a journey, right? I mean, how many times have we spoken on the phone, Ryan? Not a place that I always wanna find ourselves in. Does the church want to, or does the community want to? So, from our perspective, we're trying, and I know we can't, you know, do everything. So we're trying to find a way to partner with y'all with the best situation with what we have. Right? I know, didn't want the pond filled in, we understand, we heard that.
It was a lake, it's a registered lake, just to be clear,
Understand.
yeah.
And, you know, so we pivoted quickly, and I immediately went to many people, spent, you know, weeks, months trying to partner with, you know, what does the city council want, what does planning want, what do y'all want, what does the seller want? And, you know, come up with some idea of what we can do to make it the best situation. So, I'm just here to say that, you know, our goal, as I've shared with Ryan, and others I've spoken to, is to partner with the community the best we can. And that's what we feel we're doing, while listening to all parties. The seller, planners, city council, you know, the community. So, and if there's anything that we can do that's within what you see, I'm here to tell you that we'll try our best to do that. But we feel like what we're presenting to you is a pretty responsible, reasonable plan, all things considered.
Can you help me, just help me understand with the, not the houses, but the other trying to rezone office space? What is the plan for partnering with the community that creating office space between 2 housing development areas, the new and the old existing, how is creating office space and buildings and traffic of customers coming to those, partnering and helping the community?
Well, I know that place has been used somewhat as an office for 20 or 30 years, and I don't know that the extent of the traffic. I know the city used it for an office for, 20 years? Yeah. So this is in collaboration with, you know, our internal team, with the city, with the market, with talking candidly to the sellers. Are you okay with this? That's how this came about. You know, the A-frame building, which people call, we're trying to figure out what can we do with it in the marketplace. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do with it, and we're open to all kinds of ideas. But it's a marketable marketplace property that we have to do something with it in the marketplace. So we felt that's the lightest use. It's not B2, not B1. And it's a light use when you consider all the uses that could be out there.
Well, what's in this proffer agreement is a small subset of all the potential office uses that are allowed in O1. And we've included the use that, you guys were trying to get the city to put in that building. So we put the uses there.
I'm sorry,
that-
can you repeat, what were we trying to put in the building?
Well, at the hearings, it was the services for, and I don't wanna say it incorrectly or misspeak, but I'm sure that some of those other folks here can tell, what did you call it exactly? That was for the people in need of services?
Special needs community.
Special needs community, thank you. Right, so that would
So-
perfectly
But it's
fit
not
in.
zoned for business, and we are adamantly against a business, any change of zoning in the neighborhood. There's
guess
no
the-
businesses north of Wycliffe Church for a reason.
I guess I don't understand how, Wycliffe is okay with the business, but how does this new business space in any way impact Wycliffe's traffic? I mean, the road to the business isn't coming off of Wycliffe's parking lot, and Wycliffe's traffic is going through our community.
It's coming the same way that it's come into that property for all these.
But it's not a
But
business.
there's only
Maybe
3
there's a
cars
business
daily
out of-
usually.
I-
Maybe
You're
3
stating
cars,
there
5
might have
days a
been
week.
someone in there who was illegally running.
No,
But
what
we
we're
not- we
saying is
saw no
that it was an
impact.
infant STEM program, you know, city office, health department office for over 20 years.
Did that place that ran there cause an impact to the traffic and neighborhood that
It
used it?
would have no difference in the impact than the vast majority of potential, uses that are proffered with this.
So a dentist's office with people running late to their appointments, going through our, is the exact
So
same.
someone going to a
as those other ones.
medical facility or a facility that,
Be a lot of
that
traffic.
provides.
We know the traffic,
Yeah.
so we know there's a problem with traffic already, so.
But
and
we
there
also
is.
know that if it became an issue currently, we know it's not supposed to happen. But this would change that, correct? If things go bad, it's office space now. Would that be a correct statement?
If things go bad, it's office.
If the office running out of there, if things are not helping our community, if there's traffic increases, what good is that to us as an office space, would you feel?
Depending upon the type of office use that's there, people in the community may utilize the services that are
We
provided.
don't wanna utilize, we wanna make sure what's there isn't impacting our community, isn't impacting our neighborhoods, our streets, where our children walk, play, wait for buses. We're just trying to understand what protection do they have? Can you provide me with any form of protection if things are not going well for the office there? What protection do we have for those streets that our kids are waiting for the bus on?
If things aren't going well for the office
Are you
there.
talking about because there's only one way in and one way out?
There's one way in and there's a bus stop.
And they would go down Selden if there was a traffic jam on Greatneck?
I'm just wondering, yeah, I mean, I know that if currently someone was doing something that was not appropriate for the community, we could file a complaint because they're illegally using the property. And so they keep a very low profile. I'm just trying to understand what you have in place for protecting our community
These are low.
if they try to do more.
The uses that are proffered are low impact office uses to begin with. They're not commercial uses, they're office uses, professional office. I can read them all again and you don't have copies, you can
So
read.
just to confirm, what levels of protection we have, there's no level of protection because we shouldn't worry,
Protection
is
from,
what you're
I'm
telling
not
me.
sure what you're looking for protection from, other than the level of utilization by the public at large. In other words, this is not going to be a location that has any significant visibility. It's not gonna be a restaurant, it's not gonna be a store of any type. It is a low impact office use. That building is not a Class A office space, not ever going to be a Class A office space. So it's going to be a specialized user. It more likely than not will be, if it is an attorney's office or a insurance company, it's gonna be someone in the community who wants to be in that unique location and wants to be in this community. It's not, you're not talking about any of the businesses that you see up and down Great Neck, Hilltop, commercial businesses. This is a very unique piece of property and a very unique building, and it's not going to attract, a huge amount of interest or rent. And it's gonna be a situation where, more likely than not, it'd be a perfect location for a nonprofit or a lot of other, uses that are that way, that don't have to attract the public by having drive-by traffic.
A community center or a nonprofit could actually be utilized in the R10 zoning that's underlying this conditional use permit now. So why do you need to change it to an office zoning if that is a conditional use permit allowance to be a community center?
The statement you're making is saying factually, I'm not gonna get into arguing with you about it. I don't think
I'm
it's
asking a
correct.
question.
But no, you're asking a question with a premise that I don't believe is accurate.
But didn't you just say that you might consider using it as a special needs, did I? Yeah, that's what I thought I heard.
You're not allowed to have that use in an office building in an R10 zoning district.
I actually have the zoning code printed out, and you are, a conditional use. And
I'm
you can
sorry?
have, you can
I'm
have
sorry?
a
What did you
family,
say?
a conditional use under
Oh, okay,
R10.
okay.
You can have a family center, you can have an elderly care center, an educational center, a nonprofit. So then my question is, why is it necessary to change it to office?
Because those are very limited in scope, and there's no guarantee that you could get one to go in there.
But didn't you just say to us, feel safe because most likely it will be one of those?
No, I said most likely it'll be a low impact use. I didn't say
Let me
most
ask a
likely
more,
one of those.
let me ask a more definitive question. In those buildings, will they be torn down and replaced?
It's very, very clear.
I'm just trying to, so in that existing space, reasonably, how many offices could you put in there?
Maybe, if you did have a number of small, whatever, nonprofits or profits offices, you might get a couple. But it's too it doesn't, you're not gonna have probably more than two. And more likely you'll wind up having one user, maybe two. And it's not big enough, and it's the type of
I'm just
building.
trying to lay the basis for what
Sure,
you're.
no,
Thanks.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand the question. You asked what protection you would have. What protection have you had for the last 50 years?
Well, I mean, right now, it's used for what you have found a need for it, and the current use of it has not created any high traffic in the area. It's been kind of a nice neighborhood partnership with our neighbor, and so we know that you've been using it illegally, but we don't feel it's creating any kind of concern for us. If it did, we would have brought it up. We would have said, hey, I don't know if you know this, but this is currently happening on the property. We have increased traffic, unknown vehicles coming through in and out, and we could have brought a concern to you and it would have been improperly used. But this change would say, if that ever happens, there's nothing we can do about it because it's zoned office. Is that correct? I mean, if it's zoned office, because right now we have the ability to speak up. To speak up and say, this property, which is not supposed to be running a business, but has been low-key, is no longer low-key. They've got vehicles, they've got 10 vehicles coming in and out of it every day. Well, I'm making us, yeah, it could be more, but I'm just saying, if it did have 10 vehicles, we could bring that concern up. If you make this office space, my protection question is, what protection do we have to bring that concern to light, that this has increased the flow, it has created a traffic concern, it has created new vehicles. If this is a place that has customers coming in and out every day, and that means we have new vehicles every day going in and out of our property that we don't recognize as neighbors. And they're unmarked vehicles that we don't recognize driving past where our kids went on the bus and walk to school and walk home from school. Right now, we know, we work with you, and we recognize that you're not trying to run a major business there. And if it became that, we could speak with you about it, that, hey, I think this is becoming a concern. That's the biggest concern, is becoming office. If it went worse if it got used. Let's just say that, if it got used and it created a concern for our street, our main entrance, what can we do?
Well, the predicate of your question is that the infant STEM program that was there for in excess of 20 years didn't have traffic going to it every day.
Right. So thank you for proving what you're stating, they had a very low profile, is what I'm referring to,
Well,
a very low
no,
profile.
I'm actually not agreeing with your statement that they didn't have traffic going to it every day. And that they.
Not every day, but they had a low profile, I mean, it
Well,
was
they
a
have
low
a
profile.
low profile, but again, and you're using numbers like a trip or 2 trips, and the number of trips, I can't sit here and tell you how many trips per day that facility was accommodating or creating, but I'm darn certain it wasn't, little, if any, like none, or like 1 or 2 cars, 1 or 2 trips, I think I heard that. It would have been a much more significant number than that. So, the only thing that these proffers do is restrict the uses, and the traffic engineering folks can tell you, ballpark what these uses will generate in terms of traffic, but they're clearly low traffic producers. And the traffic is right up at, is not driving through the neighborhood, and obviously everyone can drive through the neighborhood, they're public streets. And I don't know how any of these businesses are going to cause any massive amount of traffic in the neighborhood. They're not gonna have, 100 employees in this building, I mean.
You don't know, that answers my question, that was, you don't know it will, you don't know it won't, and I think that.
Don't know what will.
The traffic.
That's what you just said, I don't know if it will increase the traffic. You don't believe it, you don't believe it will.
And even if the traffic increased, you wouldn't even necessarily notice it unless you have a baseline that you're gonna go from. But if your baseline is no traffic, which is what I'm hearing, then that's not realistic at all.
I never said no traffic, but thank you.
And then, can I just point out, and I may not have this right, but I think to get into what we're proposing, that road, we have one home we have to pass, then take a left, or is there more than one home? And it doesn't go into the
3.
neighborhood. I might be wrong, but there's a house on the corner.
There's
Right,
3,
it's-
there are 3 homes that are directly in line.
And that's
But it's a
on-
very short distance from the little
Okay.
paved driveway to Great Neck Road. We
Okay.
can't handle the traffic, we just
So
can't.
there's 3 homes, but I can't imagine, maybe, might happen, that anybody that's using that, and I'm trying to really be open here, is gonna move any way back into that neighborhood for any reason at all.
I guess I'm looking at missing a turn, now they're going down our street, we don't know, and so I'm asking these questions of more than just go on hope and faith, and asking what is the plan? We want to believe good things will happen, we all are saying we wanna believe that, but also plan for the worst. Hope for the best, plan for the worst, I'm asking what's the plan, and I'm hearing, right now, we don't know, because we don't believe it will become the worst.
Missing the turn, you do have a monument sign that's before the road, so that.
But it's a quick entrance.
People miss the turn all the time.
Yep.
Stephen, I think to follow up on that question a little bit, I don't know exactly what your long-term plans are for this property, but my understanding was that, Bouchard Homes would be owning that property. Are you looking to sell it immediately, or are you thinking renting it out, or is that, I
Yeah,
don't know, is that?
I think we're flexible on that, I mean, it could be a lease situation, and we're open to any use the market will absorb. I mean, if they wanna sell a property in the open market, and because we're buying it, we have to bring it into the open marketplace and try to find a user. I would be very happy if this user could pay us market rate and y'all would have no problem with it. I mean, that's my heart, that's what I hope for.
We don't want zone residential is one thing, office is another, it's way out of line.
The reason I was asking that is that a protection would be, particularly if it's a lease situation, as landlord, you would have some ability to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're living here for the next 30, 40 years, and we're gonna raise our kids here, and Steve, in all good faith, honestly, Steve, you could lease it to a great resident, a great person for the next 3 years, like we had discussed.
Yeah.
But what's gonna happen after that, when my little kid wants to take their bike down the street on Millwood that we live, and then gets ran over by somebody that's late to an appointment? Like, I don't understand why you guys can't understand just where we're coming from on the fact that once it goes business, we're screwed. We're not gonna be able to have any say over it after this, and the people that have lived there before, and the people that are planning on raising their families there, I'm gonna be worried. Don't go down Millwood Road. I'm gonna yell at my daughters because there is too much traffic down that way. And that's what scares the crap out of all of us. And I'm sorry to get passionate right now, but me and my wife talked about this last night, and like, we're worried that once it goes business, it's done. And it's like, okay, can they make a 3-story building there now? And do whatever they want? Yes, I mean, I know that's not,
You're saying that
it's
now.
not your
That's not
intention,
true, that's not
but
true,
down
that's
the
not
road,
true,
that could happen.
That's not true.
So business have never in the past taken
Completely
something and
false.
changed their plan 5 years later, is what you're telling us.
They cannot change that building without going through a process that will involve city council and planning commission. It's proffered, and no, I've never seen anything ever happen with a building as unique as this, that the city council ever allowed to be torn down and built a big building there.
What about expand?
I'm sorry?
What about expansion?
You go up, can they go to the side?
But you said tear it down. What about expanding on this property that this landowner owns that is all considered office?
Given, well, again, they can't expand anything.
Without
They can
asking.
change the
Right.
proffer, they can
What
change.
stops them from asking? If they can ask to change R to O,
We can
and that
change it
gets
fast.
approved, what stops them from asking O to be expanded O? What stops them from asking O to be no longer conditional
People
O?
don't like to waste their time and their effort and their money to be denied. That's what.
Well, it's called a proffer change and it happens.
I mean, you're
Yeah,
telling me,
that happens.
if it
Nothing
happens,
like what you're talking about is ever happened.
They went there to fight this
Are there any
battle.
lots that aren't built on in there? Right next to the
I
place?
think we have a lot of
All
what we
the
call.
They're all built on.
They're all what?
Blue Road.
Yeah.
And what,
I think.
Yeah, every
this has
lot's
been
built on.
forever. I don't
This is
feel
just
any
one step at a time.
they're
unbuilt
not,
lots.
I'm just curious.
I would have to go back to find out for sure, but I mean, this has been a very old,
It says only 5.
community.
I knew that.
So we've been very well established in what's here, is been here.
Well, you know,
Once it goes business, it's
y'all have heard everything I ever had to say about this deal, and I'll tell you exactly what it looks like to me. We, the church, wanted to and needed to sell the property. We found a good partner, we thought, still think, to sell it to, and we thought we had come up with a great plan. You're talking all the bad things about this A-frame. The A-frame was gonna be torn down, and there were gonna be houses in there. We had this great plan to develop this area, and everybody said, no, we don't like that.
We didn't want
We
the lake
don't
filled
wanna
in.
ruin the lake.
Mhm.
The lake is the issue. Lake Conrad has been here for 100 years and needs to stay forever. So they said, okay, we won't build 12 houses, we'll only build 5. And now it's another issue, it's the A-frame. What y'all really want is us not to do anything.
Not
Not
true.
true.
Just
Not do
understand.
anything, you don't want us
Not
to
true.
sell the property.
Not true at all.
Well, you know,
Not true at all. We do not want an office building in the
presenting us with a
neighborhood.
new bad plan to replace a worse plan doesn't make the bad plan a good plan.
That's right.
In your
Filling
booklet that
in-
you put
filling
out
in
with
the
your
lake.
congregation, it actually said you went to the city twice to try to get it changed to business. You made a couple of phone calls. It was in your booklet that you handed out to your congregation. And it said that you were twice turned down to have this zone for business, the A-frame.
So that wasn't the A-frame, that was trying to get, to use where the land where the 5 houses was. At one point, years ago, back in the 90s, the Bank of the Commonwealth wanted to buy that, built a bank there. So we thought, well, maybe that's a place to start. Is there some, small respectable business that could be there on Great Neck Road and have access to and from Great Neck Road? And that was, the traffic department was like, absolutely not, no curb cuts, period, end of story. can't have a left turn lane, you can't have a curb cut.
Well,
What
we just-
business would want that?
Yeah, we just please hope you understand, I mean, we have concerns of the 5 homes, concerns, legitimate concerns. We have an absolute not understanding how office space inside of our neighborhood community can be acceptable. We disagree that office space as in a community at large, agreed. Having office space is not an acceptable plan to replace filling in a lake. One plan you presented that we were supposed to understand was filling in a lake that serves a purpose to the community. When that was
Serves a
turned
purpose
down,
to the
the
United
alternative
States.
was, well, let's put office space in your neighborhood community. That's not coming to us with a better plan, maybe a less worse plan, but not a better plan. I mean, this is all homes. Do you wanna put a dentist's office in your backyard? This is our homes you're talking about here, not putting a office space in the back parking lot of Wycliffe Church and running a business out of there so that businesses go through the property driveway. This is our driveway that you wanna turn into office space. And we have no knowledge in 5, 10 years from now what that will look like. That is again, concern, 5 homes, we can all day disagree, but office space. How can we put office space in our community?
I'm just sharing, just as an example. Okay, I'm not saying this, is how you feel, I'm being shared, but I live in a neighborhood at the oceanfront, and our offices are in a very, residential area. And we have 5 office buildings, very close to all kinds of kids. We actually allow a school bus and their parents to use our parking lot to deal with their children, pick them up. I haven't seen anything of what, and I'm not diminishing your feeling, Brian, particularly, because I can see that you care very much. I haven't seen anything of what you're describing. I've seen a really good partnership with the residents and there are a lot of residents behind the Cavalier, and residents that are right next to our offices. We haven't had any issues at all. Do we have traffic? Yeah, we have traffic, but it's worked very well, just as an example.
That's on a cul-de-sac too, though. You're on the right off Holly Road on the cul-de-sac.
It's a crossing, it's not a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, it's like an arch, it's not like a
Like an
dead end
arch, yeah,
cul-de-sac.
yeah.
And there's a lot of traffic going through on Holly Road, and we're
Mhm.
right there, and we've partnered well with them, and it just works there.
And those offices have been there for decades.
Correct, they have been there for decades.
And they've worked well.
But Lincoln
And
Park is
they're-
a residential neighborhood, because I lived there for 20 years, I was your neighbor, and we do not have offices in our neighborhood. If you go down where you live, where I lived on Bay Drive, there are not offices. This is our neighborhood. There is a huge difference. Holly Road had the car,
Cavalier Garage.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, and then where you are, I mean, that's been there for, like you said, decades. But as far as in the neighborhood, I lived there for 20 years. There are no offices in our neighborhood.
Well, there are extremely beautiful, very expensive homes directly across the street from these offices. They're in their neighborhood. It's not they're not in their neighborhood.
I'm
They
talking
are in
about
their neighborhood.
Lincoln Park, right in.
I'm talking about where
A
those
few homes.
offices
You're
are.
talking about a few
And I'm
homes?
also talking about
Just arguing
the
down.
dentist office that I represent, who is in the middle of Little Neck as well. So the notion that there aren't offices.
Well, there aren't any north of Wycliffe Church. They're not permitted.
You know,
It's not
the
permitted.
premise that there aren't offices in extremely close proximity to residential
We're not-
dwellings
we're not saying that.
is not factually correct.
We are not really saying that. They are on Great Neck Road, not in our neighborhood.
Well,
Do we
on
have-
this
do we
side
have
of-
more
On
questions?
this side of the road, there are no houses. You know, you're coming in and going in the same place that they've been going in for an office use for decades. That did involve traffic. They're not going past anybody's house to get there. Across the street, there are 2 houses, before you get to the entrance to this, that's been there for all these years. So. And it is zoned residential. That is correct. That is correct.
Is there anything new, because we are at bedtime here, is there anything new that you want to share with us that you were not able to get to so far?
No, just the church's application, to remove the use permit is also, will be on the agenda against the city council, and the property is zoned unconditional residential. All of it.
Okay.
I had one quick, because, Josh was showing me this thing about only adding up to 500 feet, just to make sure I understand, is that a contract for now, or is that like a forever contract? How does that work?
All of it is forever,
Okay.
unless city council changes it. And that.
Just like they're doing now, voting to change it from R to
What they're doing now is what we're all trying to do now is to protect the environment that has existed for all these years on this property, that the council and the parties here all heard how absolutely unequivocally vital it was to keep this Lake Conrad, it's a regional B&P that's got a whole bunch of stormwater that, you know, if it was pristine, wouldn't have going in it. So just to make sure everybody understands, but that's all gonna stay unchanged. And that's, the idea is the same with the building, which is very unique, it's just, it's, you know, anything's, so I'm never gonna say it's impossible, but the idea that that particular building is gonna somehow have a Fortune 500 company with people coming and going all day long, or even, it just isn't realistic. It's just not realistic. That's why we eliminated in these properties, and remember, it includes religious uses as well, okay? So we've tried to, you know, keep the potential scope very limited, but to at least have it be something that's viable. And that's all that's happening here, is to try to, it's not try to make a bad plan, it's try to, you know, find something that will preserve what's there, that everyone said they wanted it not to be filled in. They didn't want to see, you know, houses built on the whole piece of property. So that's.
We didn't wanna see the lake filled in and houses built on top of a lake, that's all.
And it sounded like the city agreed with that.
And that's done.
So you're okay if this building gets torn down and houses get built there too?
I don't think you would be able to be within the
I
correct
didn't ask you
buffer.
about the thing that I could be
Yeah,
able to
I'm
do.
answering that.
You don't want
Well, I think
to.
we
If
did,
you could- if
I
you
did
could fit
earlier
five
answer.
houses,
We
that's
have
what you could
concerns
fit.
with the 5 homes, so we did answer, we have concerns with the 5 homes. I believe we would have still concerns with the 6th, but again, there is a difference between our concerns, that is why we're here discussing back and forth, and the absolute, we cannot agree with office space. There's a difference. We are here having a discussion. You want homes, this is green space, this is open space, this is grassland that soaks up water, but you're telling us how the water would run off and be protected. That's back and forth dialogue. That's what we're here to discuss, in open dialogue of our concerns and your desires, what to do with it. But that is different, putting office space in our homes, in our communities, in our neighborhoods. We can't, that's not even a concern, that's a foot down. We do not agree at all. There can be office space in our neighborhoods that you
Why wasn't Todd in the neighborhood complaining about the infant student program?
because it
Been there
kept
for
a very
30
low
years.
footprint, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, what?
It kept a very low footprint. We knew it was being illegally run. Well, you're right, but we knew, and you did a great job. You did a great job. They kept a low footprint. Our
The
concern,
city
but
had
if
all
it
those
went
years,
somewhere,
and you had.
we would have complained.
How many cars would you have in and out of there a day?
Not many.
There was just they operated a few hours a
Not
day,
many.
yeah, maybe 5,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not many.
maybe 5.
And
Very
you would have
late
heard
use.
from us that it became more.
But, you know, maybe,
Well, since it is bedtime.
yeah.
I
Yes,
hope
we are.
that you can rest tonight and not fall down.
Thank you for your time, we appreciate it.
Thank you for facilitating this.
Yeah, I'll take it, yeah, please.